Imagine, it's nighttime. A ship is sailing across the open ocean, surrounded by nothing but darkness. No roads, no signs, no GPS. Only towering waves, powerful winds, and rocky shores that could destroy even a strong ship within minutes. Then suddenly, a light appears in the distance. It flashes for a few seconds, then disappears, and flashes again. This light isn't coming from another ship. It's a lighthouse. For centuries, these lights were more than just a way for sailors to find their way. They were warnings. They told sailors where dangerous coastlines were, where hidden rocks lay, and which direction was safer to travel. But here's the question. When did humans first start building these tall structures along the coast? And long before electricity, radio, and modern navigation existed, how did lighthouses send their light far enough for ships at sea to see? The basic idea behind lighthouses is incredibly old. Even in ancient times, people lit fires and bright flames near coastlines so ships could identify the direction of land. But over time, humans turned this simple idea into an organized system. They built tall structures, placed a light at the top, and positioned them in places where ships faced the greatest danger, especially along rocky coastlines, dangerous waterways, and entrances to harbors. But a lighthouse wasn't simply a tall tower. Its real secret was the light inside it. In earlier times, wood, coal, or oil was burned to create light. Later, more efficient systems using candles and oil lamps were developed. Then one invention completely changed the power of lighthouses: the Fresnel lens. Developed in the 19th century, this specialized lens made it possible to focus light much more efficiently in a specific direction. Now, even a relatively small light could be seen from a great distance. And here's something fascinating. Not every lighthouse had the same flashing pattern. Some lights flashed at regular intervals. Others followed a specific sequence. Sailors could recognize these unique patterns and determine which lighthouse they were approaching. But for the people who operated these lighthouses, the job was about much more than simply keeping a light on. Some lighthouses were built in places where even spending a few hours could be dangerous. The lighthouse keepers who lived there had to face violent storms, isolation, freezing temperatures, and the relentless power of the ocean. Every night, they had to make sure of one thing. The light never went out, because somewhere far out at sea, that single light might have been a ship's only hope. And there were times when lighthouse keepers had to risk their own lives to rescue crews from ships that had crashed against the shore. That's when the story of lighthouses becomes more than the story of a building. It becomes a story of humanity's constant battle against the sea. And one question always remained. When the ocean turns into a violent storm and the lighthouse itself is in danger, can that light still keep burning? But the real story of lighthouses began when the sea was no longer calm. A storm would roll in. Winds would slam against the walls, and waves several meters high would crash into the rocks and explode back into the sea. At times like these, the lighthouse became even more important for ships at sea. But at the same time, the danger was greatest for the people inside the lighthouse. The lighthouse keeper. Their job might sound like simply keeping the light on, but in reality, they had to monitor the entire system every day. Was there enough fuel in the lamp? Was the lighting system working properly? Was the lens clean? And if something went wrong during a violent storm, who would be there to fix it? There were no cell phones back then, and no system for immediate assistance. Sometimes, these people could remain almost completely cut off from the outside world for days. And throughout lighthouse history, there were moments when keepers had to do more than simply perform their duties. They had to risk their own lives to save others. One of the most famous examples is Grace Darling. In 1838, near the coast of England, a passenger ship called the Forfarshire crashed into rocks and broke apart. Grace Darling was at Longstone Lighthouse with her father. When they saw survivors among the wreckage, they decided to take a small boat into the dangerous sea to reach them. They helped rescue several people. The event became widely known across Britain, and Grace Darling's name became a symbol of bravery. But stories like hers also show us that lighthouses were more than buildings that guided ships. They were places where the people inside sometimes became the last hope for those in danger. Then the world began to change. During the 19th and 20th centuries, technology advanced rapidly. Better lamps were developed. More efficient lenses were created. Then radio navigation, radar, and eventually satellite navigation transformed the way ships found their way across the ocean. Today, a modern ship's captain doesn't rely only on a light shining from the coastline. Modern navigation systems can provide far more information about the ship's position, direction, and route. Because of this, many lighthouses around the world became automated, and in many locations, lighthouse keepers were no longer needed. Some historic lighthouses were shut down, some were converted to automated systems, and some are still operating today. But their importance is no longer just about their light. They have also become symbols of maritime history. Once, the light from a lighthouse meant, land is here, danger is here, this is the way. Today, technology has taken over much of that job. But when you stand on a remote coastline at night and watch a lighthouse beam sweep through the darkness, you're not simply looking at a light. You're looking at centuries of history. A history of sailors, storms, engineers, lighthouse keepers, and the people who kept the light burning for others in the darkness of the sea. Maybe that's why lighthouses still feel so special. Because no matter how much technology changes, the darkness of the ocean is still the same. And somewhere in the distance, a single light still sends the same old message. The danger is still there, but so is the way forward.